FOH, welcome to Deep Dive. And this week we have Chris, HabanosChris, on the forum.
Hey
Chris,
Rob.
how are you, mate? Where does this deep dive find you today?
Well, first I just want to say I'm happy to be here and excited to catch up today. I am at some place called a.k.a. Castle, which is kind of these. I'm on Long Island, New York, right now, in a little town called Cold Spring Hills, New York, where I live. And a.k.a. Castle is part of this sort of Gilded Era, the sort of robber baron era age of where there's a spattering of all the barons moving out from Manhattan and migrating uh, east onto Long Island. And
What
there's
what what period are we talking about? What years are we talking about?
yeah,
What period?
very much like the turn of the century, um, the 20s, the 30s, depending on. It definitely was happening over a longer period of time, several decades.
Okay.
And today, unfortunately, most of them, these castles, these Gold Coast mansions, as they're called, sort of the inspiration for the Great Gatsby story, of course. Uh, if you see the movie Rosebud, um, right? Rosebud.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that movie called? Um, Not Rosebud. Anyway, the gentleman who wakes up and he says his sled's name as a kid, Rosebud.
I must have missed that movie.
Uh, it's an American classic, and I'm blanking on the name, but the overhead shot, the opening aerial shot, is of this castle, and more recent history. Taylor Swift has this video called "Blank Spaces" that they actually shot here, and so. But anyway, these mansions, went to real tycoons. About 100 years ago and more, and there was a bunch of them all over Long Island before it was developed. And eventually, most of them got torn down. A few of them were salvaged. This one, a.k.a. and a Vanderbilt Mansion, and a couple others come to mind. But
Okay.
yeah,
So the pre-tech barons.
yeah, the old timey Ford Model T driving barons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Sweet, sweet. Mate,
yeah,
you grew up in New York, or is that your neck of the woods?
yeah. I I'm first. My parents were first generation Italian Americans, and they grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And I grew up in a town called Massapequa, which is also on Long Island. The name Massapequa. There were tons of American Indian tribes here. And so there's lots of towns, Ronkonkoma or Montauk, you might have heard of. All of those are
Yeah.
derivative of American Indians, actually. And so I grew up in Massapequa, and that they're one of those places where the football team's fighting to maintain their name, the Chiefs. Um, and it was a great town to grow up in, I guess. There's some notable people from there, are like Jerry Seinfeld,
Okay, yeah,
or
yeah.
like the Baldwin brothers. Jerry Seinfeld, in one of his shows, um, there's one of his shows where he has a coach, Bevilacqua, and it was actually my high school gym coach. So he used like our actual coach's name from the high school in one of his episodes, that kind of thing. But
Great stuff.
yeah, and what I like about this area now, Long Island, is you ever hear of a Levitt house?
No.
It's a type of house, and there's a place called Levittown that was named after this sort of one note cookie cutter house, where if you look down the block, as far as your eye can see, every house is identical and they're close together. And it really helped sort of a boom, I think a post World War II boom. People could afford these houses and whatnot. But what I like about this area, Cold Spring Hills, is for whatever reason, when they were designing it, they had different architects and for each home. So You know, places like Levittown, they kind of remind me of like the opening of Edward Scissorhands or something, where it's a kind of like, you know, suburbia, like a dry take on suburbia where everything is cookie cutter and looks the same. And so this neighborhood's kind of pretty because every house is unique. And the Olmsted brothers, who designed Central Park, they
Yeah.
were also developed some of the grounds around that castle and some of the grounds in the neighborhood. So it's quite pretty to go for a walk and that kind of thing, you know? Yeah.
When did your parents move out? What year?
So I'm the youngest of five. All of my
Yeah.
older siblings were born in Brooklyn. And so I was born in Long Island. And so it was sometime in the early 70s, I think they moved out of Brooklyn.
In the
And
early 70s.
yeah,
My dad moved out to Australia in 1956.
56.
Yeah, 56. But that's one of the things I love about. I think there's a closeness between Americans and Australians, is because we share such a similar history. We're immigrants, largely, at some stage
Yeah,
of our. We all arrived for the sake of trying to make a better place. I know my father did. He met my mother here
that's
in
great.
But that's, you know, it's about coming out, toiling hard, and making the best of it you can. What are you smoking right now?
I like that. Just to add to that real quick, I love that concept of sort of risk takers, right? And I do think, I feel like a lot of Aussies are risk takers for sure too. And
Oh, risk
have a,
takers. Yeah, I mean, my dad's 92 now, and in good health. And you know, I love catching up with him and just having long discussions with him. You know, and I put that to him because he came out and shot crocodiles and cut sugar cane when he first came out in 56. Whatever,
amazing.
whatever, whatever work he could get in
Yeah.
those days. But he says it wasn't so much as taking a risk, is because there was nothing at home.
Yeah, there's no
You know,
choices
there
really.
was just nothing at home.
Yeah.
It was that, you know, early 50s, late 40s. It was pretty desperate times in the Mediterranean, in that part of Europe, in a lot of Europe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was come out and try again. Yeah, I suppose there's always a risk, but they had nothing really there to hold them. Nothing left to hold them. So back to your cigar. What are you smoking?
All right. Tonight I'm smoking a 2019 Juan Lopez #2.
I'm
And
smoking a Juan Lopez #2, which is a beautiful cigar. I love that cigar. I really do. I'm smoking something I pulled out of my humidor, which someone gave me because they wanted me to try this, which is a Viaje Pyramid.
ah,
And I had no great hopes for this, but it's actually started bloody well.
that's great.
I'll have to go look up where it's from. But Viaje Pyramid.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do they
going
make the
back.
Conquistador? Are they the brand that makes that Conquistador line that comes in a little ship, or am I getting that mixed up?
I need to
I
do
think,
some research on this because
yeah,
I'm going to throw
I
it
might have
up.
had a
But I
couple.
think you're right. I think you're right, or very close to it.
Yeah,
But it's a brand I have heard of. It's a brand I have not smoked before, as far as I'm aware. But if someone told me to smoke it, there's a reason why. And I can understand now what the reason is. It's a very good, or starts off as a very good pyramid.
great.
Um, nice. Very good.
Yeah,
So, so
and
tell me about your journey in your first cigars, Chris. When was your first cigar?
yeah. I was catching up with an old friend, and he sent me several old pictures not that long ago, and they're from the '90s, definitely. And there's one of the pictures I have a cigar in my mouth. So probably started smoking, you know, my first experience smoking around that time, like the late '90s or something. Um, and not too serious, you know, not I wasn't bitten by it, I don't think. Until I went to a wedding. I remember this. I do remember this. This was still like late '90s. It had to be about '99. And I went to this really beautiful wedding of a friend's sister. It was a very extravagant wedding, and they had a hand roller, rolling cigars. And at the end of the night, after all the dancing and partying and everything, we went to this really cool room, and they were serving all these different port wines and cigars. And we were dipping, which is something I haven't maybe done since then, but we were dipping.
Oh,
That was the
the
thing.
old dipping
The
cigars
old
in
dipping.
port.
Yeah. So there was that whole thing, but something about it, I think that was the first time I really appreciated it and was kind of, you know, really enjoyed it.
You know what, Chris? Cigar retailers love weddings. We love weddings. In fact, well, I love weddings personally. I've been married a few times. I must love them. But also, the fact is, if there was no such thing as a wedding, cigar retailers would have invented it because we sell so many cigars for weddings. It's brilliant. It's absolutely, it's like Mother's Day or Father's Day. And
Yeah,
so many people got into the cigar, into the cigar world or had their first cigar at a wedding.
that's right.
It's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's a good
Um,
entree. It's the gateway drug of cigars, a wedding.
yeah, yeah. So you can't remember your first ever cigar. Can you remember your first ever cigar that you said, whoa, hang on a second, this is good?
Yeah. Yeah. So that hand rolled and that whole experience I really enjoyed. But then fast forward to phew, the first Cuban cigar I remember for sure was a Bolivar Royal Corona, I'm pretty sure. And that was in the 2007-ish or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was away, I was in the Caribbean, I was in Grand Cayman, and I remember being kind of gobsmacked. I remember this one thing that was happening. It's gross, kind of, but my salivary glands. I was like, really, uh, the cigar was really reacting, and I almost felt there was maybe even boosted my metabolism just a little bit. But more than that, the flavors were incredible. There was this really just sophisticated, like maybe complexity that I was kind of like taken back by. And I said, "Oh, I think, you know, I think I'm onto something here, you know? I like
That's great.
it." Yeah.
Yeah. And is that what started your collection? Is that when you started buying cigars? Is post that period of time?
Yeah, I think around then, but it was a lot more less obsessive for many years. It was a little bit like maybe one or two boxes a year each time I went on vacation, and I wasn't smoking them so frequently. So I was happy to have a box or two. When I got into, um, you know, if I had to guess, 2015-ish or something, that's when I really started to smoke regularly. And wanted to really had the bug for wanting to try all the different brands and markers and you know, I was kind of
You got the
really
bug. You got the bug.
I got the bug. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
did.
And there
Did.
is,
And I'm guessing that next 3 years you went nuts.
yeah, I
You
did definitely
yeah,
a
I
lot of
love that 3 year period. Retailers love that 3 year period where
yeah.
people vote it, and the next 3 years they
Yeah.
are buying, they're
Yeah.
trying, buying. It's brilliant.
Yeah. It's like you're searching for something or you're trying to find your your palate or explore all the different flavors or something. Of course, learn. But I did go crazy. That's when I figured out online retailers for sure, and friends of Habanos, and so and now, yeah, and now I have way too many to
No, there's no such thing.
do.
What you have is an incredible asset base
Yeah,
for what you
yes,
have. Because
that's
imagine if
right.
you had to replace that now.
Forget it.
Imagine if you had to replace it.
As a matter of fact, I'm dipping my toe into auctioning off just a little bit, and of course those, you know, investment wise, I have no regrets. Obviously, also, you know.
No, I I'm not a big seller of cigars.
Yeah,
I prefer to hold them myself.
yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah.
sell I did sell a lot of my Cohiba in Trinidad
Uh,
collection,
okay.
and that was simply to fund that whole Desnudo line and the Black
Ah,
Free in Honduras. And that was proven to be a smart move. But then again, I never expected a box of Siglo sixes to go from what 500, $600 a box to where they are now. They just
yeah,
made sense to do it at the time.
sure.
But Now, what work do you do? How do you make a coin? Where did you start? What was your first job?
Good question. My first job would have been something like my very first job as a man, as a young man, you mean, or my very first job
No,
as a
no,
kid?
I
Yeah,
don't care. First job. First,
probably.
I worked at Woolworths,
Yeah,
stacking.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
my first job as a
I was
union.
probably like a pizza delivery guy, flower delivery. I like the delivery jobs. Um, so I did some delivery jobs, worked in pizzerias. Massapequa was there was plenty of Italian people in the town I grew up in, so there's no shortage of pizzerias, I should say. And so I remember doing that with one of my good friends, actually. My car would break down. My first car would break down. I would be working just to keep my car running. It's like a vicious cycle basically, but it was fun. Yeah.
What was your first car?
Oh God, it was a horrible 70s toy, like the first generation Toyota. I don't even know what the thing was. I forget. It was green. Some of my friends had pretty cool cars, and I was like, not the cool guy. I didn't have the cool car.
About that time, I had a Datsun 1000, a Datsun 1000, which I
That's
remember
good.
the front seat was barely working, and the passenger seat was a beanbag. Uh, and I used to shake when I used to have to go up a hill because I didn't know if I was ever going to make it. Yeah, first cars, good
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It is that first real job. What was your first real job?
Um, when I was a young man, I worked a little bit with one of my friends and his dads, and I was opening up like call centers
Yeah.
and stuff of that nature, and setting up kind of impromptu sales teams and opening up call centers, and I did that for a little while. And I did some other kind of sales type of jobs when I was very young. Um, did you lose me?
No, you're still there.
Okay, good. I lost you for a second.
Now,
Sorry.
now you're on an angle. Now you're back.
Okay. Whoops, my hand's all over the camera. Um, I had some jobs like that, and then around when I was maybe 27 or so, I decided I wanted to go to school and get a degree and do something kind of like helping people. So, I'm a psychotherapist now. Today, that's what I do. And I work for the New York State Office of Mental Health a bit. And I also have a, private practice and stuff. And I find that it's great. It's like this, really. You get a chance to really interview people, have intimate moment. People share all you know, their goals and their hopes and their doubts and their fears and everything else with you. So it's really interesting work, and it's really rewarding when you see people, grow and
It would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. So that I like that a lot.
Do you think
Um,
I'm jumping all over the place? Do you see a greater need today? You see, I mean, your business must be
During
phenomenal.
COVID,
What's your waiting list right now? What's your waiting list just to have an appointment? I mean,
yeah, yeah. Well,
three,
you're
6
onto
months?
something. Yeah, you're onto something. It's kind of sad. I get calls all the time that people can't find anyone. So there does seem to be almost more demand than there are therapists in this area sometimes. And I know during COVID, I was, I got so many calls and stuff too. So my private practice always did well, and but it seemed like around that time, the the need, people were getting into therapy some more, and I know it's not for everybody. Some people, aren't into therapy, and that's okay with me. But I know from doing it firsthand all these years that for some people it definitely really works, and they're really happy that they
Chris,
do.
there used to be a stigma about going to therapy, and I think that's been completely removed these days through programs and better knowledge of, especially for men, in terms of the different challenges that they face.
Yeah,
It's it's one of the things I've certainly seen change over that period of time, and
yeah,
you know we've got a beautiful crew of guys that I can talk to, and other guys can talk to each other on our deck and our community. A
yeah,
lot of people have that, and I was stunned by some figures that, 1 in 4 males doesn't have a best mate, a best friend. And 1 in 8 males has no friends. And I couldn't imagine a world like that, but that world exists.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Some people just don't have support systems. Some people get a bad deck of hands when it comes to family. And
Nice way of putting it.
yeah, yeah. And then some people might have a lot of people around them socially, but maybe they're not comfortable you know, sharing some of the stuff that they're really going through, or so it can vary for sure. But a support system is great. I do think, if you're connected with close mates and you could, you guys get to support each other that way, that's really a beautiful thing, obviously, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine a world without it.
Yeah.
What I love about we got our deck session tomorrow afternoon, which is always great. And it's the highlight for many of those guys in that no one talks about money. No one talks about how good they are or this or that. Everyone's taking the piss out of each other, which is great.
That's great.
But if everyone's going through a difficult time at home or through their work life or whatever, my God, it is like seagulls on a French fry. We call it a chip. Everyone jumps in a hand, yeah, in or out. They got a family member who needs a doctor or needs a therapist. Well, you know what? We'll find one for you. If
Yeah.
you can't, we'll get you in there. We'll get you to a specialist. We'll help each other out. And it doesn't matter. It could be painting your home or fixing your car or whatever. Everyone is in there to help each other out.
Yeah.
There's a great deal of love in that community, and we're not afraid to say it. I love those guys. Those guys love each other, and it's a big community, but it's built over time and it's built over shared trust.
Yeah. Trust. Yeah.
It's something that's very difficult to describe, but it's something that's tangible. You can feel every time you're around there, every time you're in that grouping and off grouping. We have a WhatsApp group. I mean, people blame, people take shots at tech these days, and there's good and there's bad tech. I don't think it's good and bad tech. I think it's the way it's used or the way it's manipulated. But
Yeah.
we have a fantastic WhatsApp community amongst that tech crew that is incessantly active every minute of the day, every hour of the day. There's something going on there. Celebrating this. We've got guys overseas at the moment posting photos of themselves in the most ridiculous. Put a shirt on, people. Posting photos from Greece or posting photos from there. It's nice. It's good. It's a great community. Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
and as I always say, look, cigars are fantastic, and that's how we all got together. But it's just the cross on the T and the dot on the I. It's not the main game.
Yeah. Cigars are great in terms of meeting people. Everybody I've met in the cigar community just seems somehow you're instantly bonded with them, like-minded somehow. There's something about, I was with a group of friends Sunday night, sharing cigars and hanging out, bar grilling and the whole thing. And it's really awesome. And, but even people I've met online and in the real world, in the cigar shops and all this, it's just been, that's been great,
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And the
It really
forum,
is.
of course. Yeah.
Well, done properly. It's beautiful. Now you ventured out. When did you venture out with your own? I'm going to say your own social media. I'm going to use the term social media channel, but it's not really.
Yeah.
How would you describe?
Yeah. So I have
Chris?
a boutique, a small YouTube channel called HabanosChris. I do review Cuban cigars and I do some history on some of the brands, a little bit of history as well. And I got started with that. It's interesting. My first step into YouTube was actually one of my clients. I was sort of modeling with them because they had been talking about doing a YouTube thing. And so the first YouTube thing I did wasn't cigars. I just did like one video to test, to kind of see. And at that time, I had a particular product that I had purchased, and I couldn't find anything on YouTube about it. So I figured, and it was a pretty popular product. So I figured if there's someone has to want to see a review on this thing. So I did a quick review on it, quick and dirty, and it got like 18,000 views in a quick period of time. So I got very lucky in YouTube with that, that first video, you know, so relatively lucky compared to many people's first videos. So that I started to think, you know, I think there's a part of me that was always into art and fine art a little bit and the creative side. And I'm a little bit of a frustrated artist. I make these very elaborate home videos of my children with sometimes with 2 camera angles or a drone and the whole thing. And so I'm always, you know, trying to do something creative. It's for me, I really like that. And so I partially wanted to start HabanosChris just to do something kind of, you know, film edit. There's a little film editing, a little this, a little that. I sometimes use a little slightly fancier lighting than maybe the average cigar guy might. You know, it's imperceptible to some people probably, but I put a little lighting up and I do this top-down shot, and sometimes I do these little silly edits with R2D2 in there or whatever, but not, you know, not too wild. It's mostly cigar focused, but I, you know, I try to do little creative things. And so I really was just doing it kind of for an outlet, you know, and because I'm super passionate, I don't want to skip over that part. I am super passionate and a little obsessive about Cuban cigars. And I saw some of the reviewers, I'd say, on YouTube, and I didn't really jive with a lot of them, or how they talked about tasting notes, or just kind of the way, you know, there's a lot of great content out there, but some of it was, I figured, let me make something that I'd want to watch personally, you know?
I love the content. I love the quality aspects of what you do. And I'm going to put a link here so guys can go and see some of your work, those who haven't already. But it certainly is worthwhile pursuing and looking at. So when did you start this, HabanosChris? It hasn't been that long.
It's a good question. I have to think. I know the answer to that. It's three years ago, I think. 3 to 4 years ago, I think.
And what's the feedback been, Chris?
It's been good. If you look at it, there's lots of ways to look at it. It's obviously a modest channel at the end of the day, but I would say that I would say that you know, I saw some stats a few months ago about YouTube. It was an article about YouTube videos, and I remember reading it. I think it was, you know, something like the top 3%. If you get 3,000 or 5,000 views, you're already in like the 97th percentile. And, you know, if you get, so I have 1 or 2 videos. So I don't, you know, the views is not the only measure of, I'm not really chasing views, I should say. But it's nice when I have a video and maybe it gets, you know, 15,000 views, or I have one with over 40, you know, 45,000 views or something. So to look at it that way, I guess the feedback has been pretty good. You know, people email me or comment or this or that. So that is good feedback, I think. Some people are, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. So there's that aspect to it, which is
now, do you ever criticize?
Yeah.
Do you ever criticize a cigar?
What's that?
Do you ever criticize a cigar?
It's a good question. No, and I usually stick with cigars that I'm really kind of wowed by.
Okay.
I do have a few where I say it was mostly lackluster, but there's some hints there that probably maybe it's only a year or 2 old, and I have a feeling if I go back and revisit it that it will be better. One I could think of is a Romeo and Juliet Petite Royales.
Yeah.
Those I have the same box I happen to review is surprising me with the how much I'm enjoying them now. But when I reviewed it, I think I just said there was a hint of this and a hint of that, and you know, I'm looking forward to seeing where they'll go in the future kind of a thing, you know? So that's as close as I go to kind of, you know, I don't usually make a whole video about a cigar that I didn't enjoy, in other words, you know, but I get plenty of cigars that I don't enjoy sometimes, you know?
So you're effectively Cuban only, or do you mix
Yeah, yeah,
Cuban?
yeah. I'll make exceptions for like Fabrica 5 or some
Yeah.
others. But yeah, I like to just stick to the Cuban, and that kind of is parallel to what I smoke, basically.
So when it comes to aging Cuban cigars, we just mentioned the R&J, or you mentioned the R&J Petit Royale. When it comes to aging, what's your thought process on aging a cigar?
Yeah.
Is it important?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, and especially when I started, um, but it's cloudy sometimes. But I will say, um, some of the this is controversial, but some of the best cigars I smoked were young, and they started off outstanding. And by the time I got through three or four of them, they maybe were sick or something, or I had just gotten them. And by the time they acclimated to my setup or whatever it was, they changed. So I put them away. And a lot of those cigars have come alive over time. So the other, but what happens more commonly is it's okay when it's young, and then over time they can develop. But now we know in the past few years, you know, there's a lot of talk about the Habanos's process, and maybe cigars are more approachable younger. And so it's not a hard fast rule to me personally that the cigar will always get better with age or peak with age, but usually I've had like time and time and again, 90% of the time, if I'm not happy with a cigar, I could wait 6 months or a year and revisit it, and there's something new there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My rule of thumb is I'll smoke through a box if it's delivering 92, 93 point cigars in my gauge. In my
Amen.
gauge.
Amen.
And the minute I smoke one or two, which is then that box goes away.
Ah, great. Great.
Very different.
Yeah.
And that's always worked well for me.
Yeah.
That if a box is delivering that sort of utility, that sort of enjoyment, I'm more than happy with that box. I
Get
don't
it
need
while
it
the
to be
getting's good.
596 because I've also been experienced times where you put that I've overaged stock, or I actually preferred it 3 or 4 years ago than it's lost a little bit of its intensity, and I find that a little
Sure.
bit with Gusto and others where they lose it at the 3, 4, 5 years mark. They're spot on. They're perfect for me,
Yeah.
but at the 8, 9, 10 year mark, no, I actually preferred them when they were 3, 4, and 5 years out of that same
Yeah.
box.
Sure. I could identify with that. Would say my sweet spot is about 5 or 6 years often. Um, but
Yeah,
also
same.
I love what you said about, oh, I'm with you. I could think of a few boxes that if it's going good, I'll keep going back and back. And because who knows what it will be like why not? That's what the whole point is. So if you get one that's working, and I'm often shifting around and finding, streaks or not streaks, and occasionally a whole box. So that's what I'm with. So I understand your thought on that. Definitely.
So that Juan Lopez number 2, for me, that is ideal at that 5, 7 year mark. It's perfect, but also like them super fresh.
Yeah.
There's something about that mongrel that they bring to the table, super fresh, but I know that they're going to transition. And so I actually do. Oh, geez, it's a beautiful cigar. And it's not everyone's type of cigar. A lot of people find them too strong, or for me, the Juan Lopez number 2 is one of my favorite cigars.
Yeah.
It's
It's up there. It's up there for me too.
so while we're at it, give me a rundown of say your top 5 off from the hip that you really enjoy.
5 is hard, but I'll try to think of a few. I know the Punch Punch, for a while. I'll think of cigars that I had outstanding boxes of, and then I'll get to some of the underdogs that I like too, I think. Because my channel also is kind of a bit about underdog cigars, I think.
That
I
is.
don't know that I set out to do that. It just seems to be, I think I enjoy, there's a definitely reward to when you get a cigar that's meat, like sort of mid-level, but it smokes above its pay grade a little bit. I love that too. So, but I think the Punch, Ras, Juan Lopez #1, Hoyo de Monterrey Epicure #2, Monte #2, the Bolivar Royal Corona was up there for a while with me. The Romeo and Juliet Bellicoso.
Well, there's
You know,
one.
yeah,
R&J Bellicoso. It's not one that many people speak about. Why do you
yeah,
love the R&J Bellicoso?
yeah. When it's
I rate
good, it has an intense cream and then the cherry and there's something nice about that blend when it's on. I've called it in some of my reviews maybe like a creamsicle kind of a thing, but it's not exactly the best comparison, but it's somewhere in that family where there's a sort of creamy cherry something that I can get sometimes that I really like.
No, so do I. I find that the wrapper on that cigar makes a bit of a difference. You need to have that little bit of a rosado wrapper on that R&J Bellicoso. But it's such an underrated cigar. And I think probably one of the most underrated cigars out there. But one that I enjoy. And not many other people do, but I
Yeah,
enjoy it. See you
yeah.
enjoy it.
I know there's a lot of mixed sentiments about Romeo and Juliet. Some people feel like they're kind of muted or they don't get distinct flavors from them or something I've heard. But I know a lot of people love them also.
If you get an R&J that's on, it's a very
Yeah,
special cigar.
yeah.
The problem with R&J is getting one that's on. Uh, I think consistency in R&J is an issue in terms of flavor profile. You get great runs of them, and that's when you should be buying them. But when I say a great run, a great production period where
Got
an
it.
R&J edition #4 is really good, or a short Churchill or a wide Churchill is really good. I love Rio Seco, San Juan, not Rio Seco, that's Hoyo. But there are certain cigars that people will complain or not. So I just don't get it. But once you experience a great one,
Yeah,
say, wow. But that's the most frustrating part of this Cuban cigar hobby is
yeah.
consistency.
And that's
Is
good advice for people, cigars or anything collectible or high end or something. It allows space for people to want to be experts on it, everything. And there are, to me, someone like you, Alex Groom, you guys are bona fide experts. So there's nothing wrong with experts. So hack whoever, they're all, I admire all you guys. But I will say some people, and I don't feel you're this way or Alex Groom's this way or anyone. That's what I like about you guys is you allow room. If someone tells you they love a cigar and it's great, it must be great for them, I guess, right? It may not be great for you, but I think it's interesting that kind of some people know that what works for one guy might not work for another guy, and but that's what's kind of fun about it too, I guess.
this, I think one of the most frustrating parts of this hobby is usually that people become so
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you.
all right,
Sorry.
okay. People become fixated upon absolutes.
Absolutes.
And there are very few absolutes in the cigar industry.
Yeah, yeah,
There are very few absolutes.
yeah, yeah,
And people become dogmatic about what they believe in, and they don't leave any wiggle room for other people's opinions. It makes no sense to me.
yeah, yeah. I
Whatsoever.
like that. Yes, I like that.
Your
Um,
tastes are different, although we share very similar palates just by going through the cigars that you enjoy. It's very similar to the cigars that I enjoy. Do you enjoy Sancho Panza at all? Do you, Sancho
well,
Panza
if I would have
also?
kept rambling, I probably would have said anything
Yeah.
Sancho Panza. I love Sancho Panza.
Yeah.
Yeah, love them. And then I have my underdog cigars, like that I'll tell someone I had a 90 Figueros Mañanitas and they'll think I'm an idiot, I guess, but that's okay. I like some of my underdog cigars right now that I'm really enjoying would be the Monte Cristo Media Corona, the Petit Royale that I mentioned earlier, the Hoyo de Monterrey Depute or Dumar. Some of those are delicious to me. Partagas shorts when they're good. I had a box like you were talking about. I ran through all 25 because they were just, I didn't think they would ever get better than how they were. At that point, they were like something like out of a bakery. I felt like I was in a bakery. There was just all these great flavors. Upman Corona Juniors are very interesting to me. San Cristobal, El Principe, and sorry, I know I'm naming half the lineup, and some Fonsecas. But all of those that I named, I think, you know, they're not considered pinnacle cigars by any chance, but I love them and I enjoy them a lot. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't fault you on any one of those. But they've all got each one that you mentioned there are very distinctive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that in Cuban cigars. And I still think, and a lot of those are smaller format cigars.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Dumas. You've got the Principi. You go all the way to Bolivar Corona Juniors. Very different again.
Yeah.
Cuba makes the best small cigars in the world by a country mile.
That's true.
I don't think anyone else can.
That's a great point. I have to really agree. Even these media Coronas I've been smoking, they're, you know, chocolate and just really good. You know, just you're right. There's nothing like that actually in the world. You know.
No, there's not. You can't. They bring a flavor definition, a flavor explosion from the first puff to the, and they're not big cigars.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you could never confuse the flavor profile. I mean, the Media Corona or the Media from Monte Cristo, I mean, that's pure Monte Cristo. It can't be anything else. They've just nailed that DNA. Unfortunately, it's also a hellishly expensive cigar these days for what it is. But my God, they just nailed it.
Yeah, I've had some great ones.
And all those half Coronas or Perlas out of the Cuban lineup, there's not a dud amongst them. And yet they reflect the DNA of that marker perfectly.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Yeah. I'd love to do, it'd be at a blind tasting. I reckon if I did a blind tasting of half Coronas, it's a bit difficult because they are different sizes. Did a half, if you could do it, I reckon guys would we've just finished our blind tasting for 2025.
Yeah. I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the courage to participate. I was just
a
spectator.
It's great fun. It's great fun.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
Great fun.
Maybe next year, yeah.
Let's say the average score out of that is 1.5 out of 5 Robustos. That's the average score. I reckon if you did one on half Coronas and you could get them all the same size, I reckon the average score would be 3.5 out of 5. I think they reflect the marker far better than what a Robusto.
That's a great idea. If you do that next year, I'm in. I might even be able to tell. I might even have a small sliver of hope that I might guess one of them. Yeah.
Blind tasting is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And I get tremendous respect for the crack.
I'll concede. I was just getting grandiose for a moment, but yeah, I agree. I know it's really difficult. Sometimes I don't even remember what I grabbed out of my singles humidor. I can't remember if it was like a Super Partagas or a Regalis or something. You know, I don't even remember. Sometimes I have to take a stop and look at the ring gauge or something. You know, in other words, I can't even tell when the wrapper's on every once in a while.
Don't get me wrong. Dean will often bring home cigars for me to try.
Yeah.
From the seconds bin, and there'll be Robustos of that.
Yeah.
They won't have any bands on them, or they've taken the bands off.
Yeah.
And she goes, what do you think it is? And I'm batting 50% at best. I'm batting.
That's 50%. Not bad. That's actually probably.
But that's at best 50%.
500 is good in baseball, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. But no, it's cool. What do you want to do with your channel? What do you want to do with what's the next couple of years looking like with your channel?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm happy to just keep trugging along. I still have to finish my top 5 series, which I have the next one somewhat complete. I'm taking my time. I have some. I probably know off the top of my head the next 3 cigars that I want to review. Also, so probably just keep putting out reviews slowly but surely. You know, I work and I do have younger children and stuff. So sometimes my biggest challenge is probably just prioritizing time to do that over other things that I have to do. If I had a little,
You're doing it as because you love doing it.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Which is the upside of not being a huge channel. I don't have as, you know, I get to do one when I really want to do one. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not there. You're not trying to find a way of monetizing the.
No, it's not
It's
my
just
retirement plan or anything like that. Yeah. But I love it.
That's very refreshing on the cigars.
Yeah.
Are there any influences, I hate using that term, or people that you gravitate towards that you enjoy watching their content?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will say, who was that guy? Cigar Obsession was a big guy, and he had a lot of strengths, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite channel. And so that guy was big for a while when I first started getting into cigars on YouTube. And then the guy I stumbled upon that I still like a lot and I respect a lot is Dave Dude. And
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I like his palette. I like how he talks about cigars, and I like his overall vibe. He's not very flashy or anything. He's not cigar cosplay or anything like that. He's just kind of straightforward. So I do like him a lot. As I said, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Kirby Allison or the Sahakians or the folks. This cutter is from Max Folks, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But I like those guys a lot, and I know some guys have a little more soul than other guys or something, but take a guy like Kirby, he's got an incredible amount of vision. There was all these kind of going ons in the cigar world that were just kind of there. No one really illuminated them, and he's got a vision. He got a production team, and he went to Habanos festivals and all of this, and he puts together short videos and gets lots of views and for good reason.
Listen,
Captivating videos. Yeah.
Kirby cops a lot of crap, but when it comes to
Yeah.
his production values and content, you gotta tip your hat to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like the style, but in
Yeah.
terms of putting out there, no, hats off.
Yeah. Yeah, I give him a lot of credit. Exactly. I feel the same way. And we're probably different, him and I. He probably has he makes grand productions. He needs a production team and that. And I'm a little kind of mom and pop guy, editing my own videos and stuff. So you could see it in a guy like his channel, beautiful establishing drone shots of Havana and just lovely. It's great. It's eye candy, so it's good.
No,
So
very much so.
I like him. Yeah, I like him. I like not too many guys. I had an Instagram channel for a while and it was just starting to get some steam. And Habanos SA Lawyer sent me like a cease and desist because I was using the name Habanos in my Instagram.
Was that their Polish lawyer?
I didn't know. I didn't.
It's always good. I think they used to have a Polish lawyer who was sending out cease and desist notices for anyone who had Habanos in their title.
It did seem.
Rav's got one for cigars of Habanos. I got one for friends of Habanos.
Yes,
I'm a specialist. I'm a Habanos specialist.
Yes.
But I got one as well. And there's no getting around it. They love litigation or the threats of litigation.
Yeah. And that did feel like they were casting a large net, and I was getting kind of swept up in it because all I did was show, promote their cigars. On my Instagram, there was nothing going on except pictures of Cuban cigars and stuff. Sorry for the noise. There's some loud automobiles behind me, but I think they're making their way out of here. So with that being said, yeah, I didn't have much coffee, much issue. It was just my little tiny Instagram name that said Habanos in it, I guess. So anyway, so
You've kept someone
but
employed. Don't worry about it. We're good.
what's that?
You've kept someone employed at Habanos.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's their only job.
yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But if
good.
it
You were saying
happened,
before, you're saying before that you enjoy art. What are other pastimes that you do outside of your world of therapy that you get a lot of pleasure from?
yeah. And therapy can be intense too, year round and stuff. So it's good to get downtime. And so one of the things my wife liked to do, my wife and I and the family, is maybe a little traveling and just unplug and disconnect for a couple weeks here and there. My wife has some family in Naples, Florida, which is to me probably the only part of the U.S. that has a beach that resembles the Caribbean a little bit. On a good day, out at Vanderbilt Beach in Naples, you could see your feet, 100 yards out or whatever, and the water's clear and it's beautiful. So I love being at the beach there. We go there a couple times a year, and then when I can, I'll go to, like I mentioned earlier, Grand Cayman, to really do it right when I can. And hanging out with my friends, I guess. I have a brother that I'm close with that we hang out a lot. He's a big foodie, so we'll end up at, we go to all the big restaurants, and he orders overpriced bottles of wine all the time, and we have fun. And so I like to do that when I can. Just spending time with my children, of course, this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, you sound a little bit like me. You enjoy water, yeah? You enjoy
Yeah,
places that have great water.
I love it. Yeah. 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 It's like, I'm brand new after a week at the beach, and soaking in. I could stay on a good day. Could soak out there for the whole day, basically.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Geez, if you put me near the water, and I need to have beach holidays. Generally, I need to have beach holidays. It just relaxes me. You can just see everything just goes down, and it's so quick. Just the sound of surf, the sound of the feel of water. I love surfing. I love fishing, but I need to be around water just to relax. I don't know. You can keep your snow, people. I hate snow. I don't like cold.
There's nothing good about it. Trust me, I could tell you firsthand.
It
You're not
terrifies me.
missing. You're not missing.
It terrifies me.
Terrifying. You're not missing anything except a sore back if you have to shovel your driveway every once in a while or something. Yeah.
I've tried it a couple of times. It's not for me. Give me a bar and on a beach in Central South America, the Caribbean, Asia. I don't mind it. I'm super happy.
Yeah.
In warm climate and sand beneath your feet. Just good quality sand.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I love that. I know that the area you're in is kind of tropical. I think that's awesome.
It's beach country. We've
Yeah.
got some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. I always get disappointed 99% of the time when I go to other beaches that are promoted as being one of the best beaches in the world. And I think, why do I go overseas to go? It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Yeah, in your backyard.
The backyard. We're very blessed here to have
Yeah.
that. If you could give some pieces of advice, say 5 pieces of advice, 3 or 5 pieces of advice to a young guy today starting out in the world of cigars, what would that piece of advice be? What those pieces of advice be?
Yeah. Probably to try what you can. I think some guys, people get obsessed with storing cigars or, smoking cigars, getting that down right, getting a few cigars, storing them right. Taking one every now and again and learning about how they develop and what a good cigar should taste like, more or less. Maybe stock away a couple of boxes and wait 5 years and see what happens with it. I'm really not a big I've alluded to selling cigars once or twice, but I'm not a giant seller. I'm more of a collector. But but I do see the trends, you know, over the years. So why not, you know, maybe buy a box and sit on it, or sometimes you buy two boxes if you could afford it, one to smoke, one to age, or maybe sell in the future. You know, I guess that's what I would say. Just trust, you know, find your palate, smoke whatever you enjoy, I guess. Yeah, I don't
I
know
think
if I have great advice, but that's kind of my
right.
advice.
You're right. Finding your palate's important.
Yeah,
Not cigars are generally, especially Cuban cigars, are generally they're expensive these days.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
I think if you're part of our FOH community, a great way of getting involved in cigars if you're starting out is joining our underground forum, if it's a US forum, or seeing other guys who are in your area and
Yeah,
engaging, going into splits initially. There's no use spending $1,000 or $600 or $700 on a box if you're just starting out, if you don't know what that cigar is like, if it's for your palate. So pick up
yeah,
quarter box or do a split with 2 or 3 individuals. And that way you can spread it amongst 3 or 4 different types of cigars and see exactly what actually resonates with your palate. And don't give up on a cigar too quick. In other words, maybe try that cigar that you've got. If you don't like it, put it away for a little bit, even if it's only 3 left, and come back after 6 months or a year, or maybe try a few from a different box next year.
yeah,
See whether
yeah.
that what you really like.
I could see
Once you know
that.
what you like, then you can go into purchasing.
Yeah, it
And
does take a while to get your bearings, doesn't it? You know, like you might smoke something and think you don't like it, and then later on you might revisit and realize you love it. So it's kind of interesting when you're starting off too, I think. And
no, I agree with you. That goes for
yeah, and
wine as well.
singles.
That goes
If
for
you
spirits or
if you have
whatever.
an opportunity to grab singles, right, out of La Casa del Habana or something, or wherever you can,
Try.
that's a good thing.
Do swaps. Do trades. If you're not liking if you've got a few boxes at home you're not really happy about, either flick them or trade them and say I got 18 sticks left of some Bolivar Royal Coronas. They're not doing it for me. I'm not sure they're going to come good, but I want to trade 6 of these for 6. I've never tried a Choice Supreme. Can someone
Yeah,
trade me 6? I'll do 6 Bolivar Royal Coronas for 6 Choice Supreme. And then
yeah,
try that. It costs you
yeah,
nothing.
but-
Postage.
yeah,
And you're starting to be a little bit more creative in the way you're getting into cigars,
yeah,
and with that going balls deep right up front. Because that first 3 years, we touched on this before, people,
yeah,
I think, and it's a guy thing, we get completely immersed in a topic, whether that
yeah,
be wine, whiskey, rums, tequila,
yeah.
cigars, etc., and
What
we
maybe
go
watches?
right
Yeah,
in, bang, and you end up, and you can possibly end up with a whole heap of things you don't like because
yeah,
you've read a review, you've seen a YouTube channel or Instagram, and someone's raved the hell out of it, but it's not for you. Then what are you going to do? At least with
yeah,
cigars, you trade them.
yeah,
It's difficult to trade this much of a bottle of whiskey, but you can do it with cigars. So
yeah.
utilize those channels that are available to do so.
That's
It's a
great
nice
advice.
way, it's a nice way of of trying different things without having to go into too much expense at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did,
Piece of
did,
advice that you give to your 25-year-old self that's outside of cigars. So you started in business, you created your own practice, you've got a family, ups and downs. A piece of advice, and this is from a therapist as well, so this is no charge, people. A piece of advice for a young man coming through today in his 20s, what would
yeah.
you give?
Personally, if I would go back in time, I started to figure things out around 25, 27 in a way. But probably if I would go back, I would probably want to go back to maybe my 15-year-old self or maybe my 20-year-old self. You know, just you know, unapologetically follow your dreams, find your voice. Um, you know, do you. I think that's something that I think is useful. Anyway, for my 15-year-old self, anyway.
Are you roughly the same person you were at 15?
Sometimes I feel like I'm still 15 in an old man's
Yeah, we
body.
will.
So yeah, roughly, yeah, yeah. I
I
was
must
just
say,
talking.
Chris, I was really impressed that you thought you got your shit together in your mid-20s.
Uh,
That impressed me
no,
because I
I
didn't
mean
get
when I say
together
shit together,
until
I mean
early 50s.
I was about to go off the rails, and then I turned onto the track again. Not that I found the meaning of life or anything. Um,
Yeah, but
but
still, you know, going off the rails, as someone who has gone off the rails a couple of times in my life,
yeah,
going off the rails, if you keep an open mind, is one of the great lessons in life.
yeah,
You got to give yourself permission to fail. It's what
yeah.
happens after. That's the most important thing.
It's so true. And when I'm not when I'm not working as a therapist with people directly in my office, I mean, I try very much not to be like a therapist, but you kind of baited me on that one. And so I will say I have learned over the years that it's really true what they say about, there's no such thing as failing, only learning, or sometimes when people come in, it happens time and time again. People come in a crisis and they think they can only see the catastrophic things that they're imagining are going to happen. And out of it comes something good often, at the least learning and growth. But sometimes it turns out to be something they needed to happen often, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's that saying, always loved it, that the obstacle is the way.
the obstacles, the
And
way. I like that. Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
obstacle that provides the opportunity
so
to
true.
grow.
Yeah, it's really true.
And it comes back to how you look at that obstacle, whether it's something that's going to propel you forward or something that's going to block your progress.
Yeah,
And it really is about looking at it in a different fashion. And and the guys I admire the most in both personal life and in business are those who have faced momentous obstacles on a regular, maybe not all obstacles are momentous. Every one of us face obstacles every given week.
yeah,
But
it's life.
those who actually look forward to them because they know the advantage of having them in their life, what they bring for them to move forward from that point.
Yes,
Everyone does.
some people do that in real time almost, and other people's process is
Yeah,
to fall apart and the whole thing. And yeah, and so I agree. Some people are really good at that. Yeah.
yeah,
Are you?
yeah.
Yeah. Something I was thinking about from what we were talking about a few moments back. There's something about cigars that's, the fact that you have to kind of store them and maybe age them. Um, it kind of lends itself to something to the idea of collecting, doesn't it? It's a little bit more about just smoking. There's also sort of a collecting part that goes with them, right? Uh,
There's a tactile aspect to it that uh, it's to, to they're almost like I was going to say family. Of course, they're not family, but well, they're like your kids, except they don't give you any problems, or very rarely. And yeah, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
accept you. But
yeah.
um, there is it's a beautiful hobby in that it delivers value emotionally. It delivers value psychologically.
I'll find a flyer.
To me, just like look what we're doing right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're sharing time over a cigar, and a cigar to me is an anchor that almost forces you to reflect, to communicate, to spend quality time, either with yourself or with others. There are, and I'm not saying cigars are healthy. Not that I think that they're that bad for you either.
sure.
But as opposed to, it's like smoking, it's like drinking alcohol responsibly, in that as part of your life, they add so much value. There's something that they hone you, they improve you, they deliver so much for you. And I couldn't imagine a period in my world where I don't have cigars in it. They've been from my friendship groups to my business, to my wife, to my kids and our interaction. I got one of my kids who is working with us in the business, to just the ability to travel globally and to catch up with people, whether they be in New York or LA or Italy or France or whatever it is. Cigars have given me and those around me and those who are in this hobby so much. And I'm not sure if there's another hobby that actually does that to any great extent or to that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that, are you a collector of things in general?
No. I'm generally a minimalist in that I would rather have some really good things in my life, but not many.
But not lots.
Not lots.
Yeah.
When I pick up a pen, I love it to be a great pen. That suits me. When I buy a car, it's got to have a personality that suits me, and I'll pay over the odds for it, but it's got to be what suits me. The cigars, I don't chase every regional release or every humidor release from Habanos because it doesn't suit me. I know what I like, and I'll keep that. But no, I don't go out looking for collections for wine and whiskey and liquor. No, never. And I've got mates who are massive collectors of everything, and that's just what they love. For me, no.
Yeah.
I'm just as happy drinking a $20 bottle of wine as I am a $200 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And what gives me immense pleasure is to drink that with someone, whether it be Dee on a Friday afternoon here, or when she comes home on a Wednesday night and we sit down and enjoy a cigar and just chat, or with you now, or with my mates tomorrow afternoon. That's the quality of life.
That's great. Yeah.
No, absolute value of collecting. Money doesn't really mean a great deal to me at all. It's how you can use it and what it can deliver in terms of experience is everything. But no, I'm not a collector. Too old to do it now.
You collected life experiences.
Yeah, if I have to go tomorrow, if I got called, I'm not saying going upstairs, but I'm hoping to go somewhere in mid levels and pay my penance. But if I wouldn't have a regret, I honestly wouldn't have a regret. I've lived a charmed life, lots of fun, met some brilliant people, hundreds of brilliant people, and have laughed my way all the way through it. And experiences. And you're right, it's experiences.
Yeah.
I'm an experience junkie, Chris. That's what I live for.
I believe that about you, and that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that sort of wraps up our deep dive with Chris. HabanosChris on the forum. It's got a fantastic channel, which you can check him out on this link. One of the true gentlemen of the cigar world. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
See you on the forum, mate.
See you, man. All right.
Take
Later.
care.
Take care.